I would like to go into more specifics of transaction being the shallower and traditional way of involvement, and then stepping it up to a transformational level of involvement, transformational level of outreach. That means involvement at a level that can end up getting your hands and feet dirty, so to speak.
But by doing so, changing the game for that person.
Okay, let's do this. See, now we're getting more into the heart of what this whole transformational journey is about. We had to go through attitudes and the things that you went through, and your congregation, your pastoral staff. There's a lot going on, isn't there? I mean, we've talked about a lot of things that get in the way or redirect us, in the wrong direction. Now we need to talk about, okay, let's say somebody is not afraid of somebody threatening them with words like, oh, that's a social gospel, when really that's exactly what the gospel ought to be.
Yes.
It's not very social when it's filled with separatistic attitudes. Yes, it ought to be a social gospel filled with really good news. Now, what's this new level of involvement going to be? I would like you to go back into some of these 80 ministries you were talking about. You have become involved in and leading a lot of your congregation's involvement. So let's go through some of these. The typical thing is for somebody to take, they get excited about it. A big church may get people together and say, we're going to take meals to the homeless. Now look, I've worked with the homeless. I've worked with all kinds of very needy people in gospel union missions, as some of them are called, inner city missions, soup kitchens, etc. And you're not, I hate to say it, but you're just not hardly going to get anything done by bringing somebody a meal once in a while. That's transactional. That's what everybody gets excited about. They feel good about themselves doing something. That isn't even close to what you're talking about.
No, it's not. It may be necessary. I don't want to sound unappreciative or disrespectful of that. And I understand that it is a need and it's being met. And for some people, that's the level of serving they can give. So I don't want to diminish transactional. I just want to say, hey, that's first base. There's a lot more besides that.
Now, we don't want to put that down, but just let me remind you, Doug, you are talking about this transformational journey. So what we have to do is say, but there's so much more. Yeah. So we don't have to spend our time putting it down. So let's...
Yeah, because I lived a lot of my life just there at first base thinking that's all there was to mission. You're hungry, here's a bag of food, I'll see you in 3 months. Transactional is probably a modern invention, I think, because it's something that we can manage. It's task-driven more than people-driven. That's easier to do, honestly. It's easier to do tasks because I don't need your permission. I don't have to worry about your emotions, your feelings. It's like, you're hungry, here's a bowl of food, God bless you, here's a Bible verse. It's well-intended. It's probably not very New Testament, in a New Testament world, totally pre-modern, where hospitality was deeply ingrained throughout the Middle East and still is today, something that Americans know part of, but not really. We don't get a lot of the Hebraic Middle Eastern culture. It's different than us. And we get into the New Testament and look at how mission was done there. It would look pretty alien. New Testament Christians might look and rub their chin at the way we do mission and go, really? I think it would seem odd to them to transact a simple thing and call it mission, when to them it would be much more costly, much more involving. Now, they wouldn't be doing huge volume of it, but they would be adopting that person, that family, putting their arms around them and walking with them like the Good Samaritan. Jesus gave us a story. The Good Samaritan was a fairly costly personal engagement with a person. And if you look at that as somewhat normative, a lot of our transactional ministry, like I said, hungry people need to be fed, so it might be necessary, but it's not sufficient to help the hungry person get out of that food line and get onto where all of us want to be, which is to be able to feed ourselves. That's the issue, and you could take on any sector of the missional world, people who are drug addicted, people who are in prison.
Let's do that.
All those.
Let's take some. Let's do drug addiction, and I'd like you to also deal with marital problems.
So you want me to compare the transaction versus
Each of
transformation?
those, yes. How do people typically do the transactional?
Well, in a marriage situation, for example, you've got a crisis, go to a Christian counselor who you may or may not know, get some good advice. More information will solve the issue, and listen to it and do it. You're obviously ignorant. That's your problem. You're wounded. Get healed, and we give you some information and say, "Go and be blessed." It's well intended. It may even be information they do need. But transformational would be taking the relational effort to walk alongside this person, which is hard to do, understand the roots and the antecedents of the circumstance they've gotten into, demonstrating the love of Christ through presence and empathy and understanding, like Job's counselors without talking, caring, engaging ourselves enough in their life, modeling the health of my own marriage to the point that we might begin to have gutsy, meaningful conversations that may be nonlinear, that may not be Bible marriage teaching from a Sunday school perspective.
We're talking about spending time with people.
Yes. We're talking about engaging people at the point that they maybe it's the only point they really can receive. I'm not against sitting people in the class and talking about marriage. We all need that at some point. But typically people in crisis, we often expect or want to give the thing they need, but we give it in the way they are most unable to receive. And that's where the transaction becomes convenient for us. Hey, I'm busy, you're hungry. Hey, I'm busy, you got a marriage trouble, I got an hour. Let's talk about what you need to know and do. Okay, we good? You got it? All right, I'll see you next month. Whereas if I'm transformational and I'm not a Christian counselor, but I'm walking beside you and I'm saying, hey, we need to get together tomorrow. Let's have dinner tomorrow. And let's talk. We have one of those 3 or 4 hour marathon, get it all out, share, talk. And then I start saying, well, why don't we get breakfast on the way to work tomorrow? Let's pray about this. Let's talk about this. Let me walk with you guys through this. Why don't you come and spend a night with us? Don't move out. Stay together. Don't talk about divorce. Put the lawyer's number away. Let's get God into this thing. And we start engaging personally. It's very costly to do that.
And there may very well, and hopefully there is also a good counselor, a professional counselor involved with this too.
Sure. Yeah, it's not like we're ditching that. That might be necessary, but it's not sufficient. And this whole thing of incarnational involvement, you can see why we need the whole church engaged in it. If I get incarnationally involved with people in the city, guess what? Pastor Gamble's not going to minister to thousands of people. We're talking dozens. A dozen's a lot of people when I get to this level of, they got my phone number, they got my cell number, they text me. Their business is now my business.
Very good point.
I cannot handle more than a dozen of those. Not and be transformational, not and have enough margin in my life to be there for them. So that's why I want to mobilize so many, because I'm not asking them to minister to hundreds.
And this cannot
maybe
be done
one,
like
maybe 2.
Yes, maybe 1, maybe 2.
And you got to have time in your life to do it, or build time in your life to do it, and figure out how could I incorporate people into the way I'm living so that it could bring them support and comfort. And it's interesting. Some of the most transformational ministries are the least well known, and for a couple reasons. It's messy, busy work. They don't take time to brag on themselves, and they're small. But over time, they're cranking people out. This is the difference between transformation and transactional. They're not feeding the same people for 4 years. These people are graduating.
Because?
They're getting transformed.
In what way?
They're getting transformed internally in their heart and mind. The gospel is making an effect of healing and encouraging and motivating, and they leave. And then someone else who needs it comes in. And so this heavy, intensive, incarnational, transformative process versus a short-term, easy transaction is convenient for me, but isn't really touching you at the deep hurt, pain, potential that happens in a transformational process.
I'm thinking about how anemic we normally do things. Okay, everybody, we're going to start up a new program here. We've prayed about it, and our board has said, let's go forward with it. We've got some people who want to help us do this. So every Tuesday night at 6 p.m., we're going to go uptown, and we're going to do such and such. But let's say prison ministry. I've been involved in that too. But to actually spend time with people that's not just on this programmatic schedule.
Let me put it in a couple words. Here's how you know if you're doing transactional ministry. Well, it's convenient. I found room in my schedule for it. This is transformational ministry. It's very inconvenient. And so you will have to order your life and have enough margin in it that when the inconvenience of being engaged in someone in the messy business of coming to Christ, getting freedom in Christ, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and it just feels like all hell is breaking loose. And you think, goodness, how much worse can it get? And you're really not even at the bottom yet. That's the messy ink. And you think, how did I ever get talked into working with this guy who's homeless, this prisoner, this young girl who's had a baby, and it just on and on. But if we hang with it, I'm not saying go out unprepared. I'm saying prepare, learn, but engage in life with people. It will be inconvenient, which drives us back to how has my life been transformed so that I build time into my life that I can be inconvenienced by transformational ministry. Now we're down into the hard cost, the messy business. This is why I don't expect everybody will want to sign up for transformational work. I just tell you what I came to. I began to talk and hear, I began to observe people who were doing transformational ministry, and I became jealous because I was mainly a transactionalist. And I began to see the shallowness, and I thought, am I going to spend the rest of my life doing what I've been doing for 15, 18 years? I said, I don't think I can be happy doing that. And so out of sheer, almost, I have to say I was pretty naive when I signed up for it, and it was more costly than I ever thought, but I wouldn't go back now. It's too important, and once people get a taste of it, they're not going to want to go back either. And I do transactional stuff, but I don't do it only. Yes. It's part of a larger effort. I bring my food to the food bank so it gets in there, but I'm more interested in helping the guys I'm mentoring figure out how to become self-supportive.
Okay, let me give you a couple more categories from the 80 different outreaches you have become involved with.